The village of Umwagu had never been this lively. Women gathered in clusters, whispering behind their palms, while young men boasted about seeing the fleet of luxurious cars driving into the village square. The air buzzed with excitement. Ikin, the wealthy son of the land, had returned. Dressed in a flowing white agbada, embroidered with gold threads, and wearing designer sunglasses, Ikin stepped out of his sleek black Mercedes-Benz like a king returning to his throne. The villagers watched in admiration as he handed crisp 1,000 naira notes to children and old men alike. Ikin, the big man. Our billionaire, an elder hailed, slapping his back. Laughter and cheers erupted. He basked in the attention, grinning at the adoration. He had left Umwagu years ago with nothing but ambition, and now he had returned, a man of great wealth and success. But while the village sang his praises, one person remained unimpressed, Nkem. She carried a large clay pot of water on her head, walking past the crowd without stopping to gawk. Unlike the others, she had no interest in riches or flashy cars. She was a simple girl, her days filled with chores, fetching water, cooking, and taking care of her younger siblings. Nkem, have you seen Ikin? Her friend Adogo whispered excitedly as she caught up with her. I saw him, Nkem replied indifferently. Oh. And you didn't even smile? My sister, if that man notices you, your life will change. Nkem only sighed. She knew Ikin's type, men who believed their wealth could buy anything, including love. She had no time for such men. As she reached the stream, she carefully dipped her pot into the clear water, allowing it to fill slowly. The sun blazed overhead, making sweat bead on her dark skin. She wiped her brow and straightened up, balancing the pot expertly. Just as she turned to leave, a black SUV pulled up beside her, its tires crunching against the dry earth. The door opened, and a familiar, confident voice called out. Nkem, let me help you with that. She froze. The voice belonged to Ikin. He stepped out, his agbada swaying in the afternoon breeze, his cologne rich and intoxicating. He smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. Nkem tightened her grip on the pot. No need, I can manage. Ikin chuckled. Are you sure? It looks heavy. I carry it every day. For a moment, their eyes met. Ikin, used to women melting under his gaze, was surprised by the quiet defiance in Nkem's eyes. She wasn't dazzled by his presence like the others. At least let me walk you home, he offered. She hesitated, but before she could refuse, he had already started walking beside her. The villagers watched in awe as the wealthy Ikin followed the simple village girl, carrying nothing but a conversation. By the time they reached her compound, her mother, a kind but weary woman, gasped at the sight of Ikin. Oh! Ikin, my son. You honored us with your presence, she exclaimed, bowing slightly. Ikin smiled and greeted her warmly. Before leaving, he handed Nkem's mother an envelope full of cash. For you, Mama. Buy something nice for the family. Nkem's mother gasped. Oh! God bless you, my son. May your pockets never run dry. Nkem, however, remained silent, her fingers curling around the edge of her wrapper. As Ikin walked away, he turned back and flashed a charming smile. I'll see you soon, Nkem. And with that, he was gone, leaving behind whispers, curiosity, and a girl who wasn't sure if she wanted to be seen. For the next few days, the village of Umwagu was filled with whispers about Ikin's unusual interest in Nkem. Why is a billionaire chasing a village girl? Does she have jazz, love charm? Nkem is playing hard to get. If it were me, I would already be in Lagos living the good life. Nkem ignored the gossip, but she could not ignore Ikin himself. He appeared everywhere, at the marketplace where she sold vegetables, at the stream where she fetched water, even near her home, where he greeted her mother like a long-lost son. One evening, as the golden sun dipped behind the palm trees, Nkem sat outside, peeling cassava. Her younger brother Obina ran into the compound, panting. Sister Nkem. Sister Nkem. He's here again. Who? She asked, already knowing the answer. Ikin. And he brought food. Bags of rice, cartons of indomie, everything. Nkem sighed and stood up just as Ikin entered, carrying a basket full of provisions. His white senator outfit was crisp, and his cologne filled the air. Nkem, good evening, he greeted smoothly. She wiped her hands on her wrapper. Ikin, why are you here? He chuckled. Must there be a reason? I just want to see how you are doing. You brought all this food just to see how I'm doing, she asked, raising an eyebrow. Well, I also wanted to make life easier for your family. Before she could protest, her mother came out, gasping at the sight of the goods. Oh. Ikin, my son. You are too generous. May the gods bless you abundantly. She quickly ushered him inside, leaving Nkem no choice but to follow. Inside, Ikin sat comfortably, sipping a cup of fresh palm wine that Nkem's mother eagerly served him. Nkem, he said, turning to her. Why do you act like I'm your enemy? You are not my enemy, she said. But I know men like you. You throw money around to impress people, expecting them to worship you. Ikin laughed. And yet, you are the only one in this village who is not impressed. Silence stretched between them. Outside, the evening crickets had begun their song. Then, softly, Ikin said, Nkem, I want to know you. Not as a billionaire, not as a big man, just as a man. His words unsettled her. Was this another game? Or was he truly different? Before she could reply, her mother clapped her hands. Oh. Nkem, why are you just standing there? Sit down and talk to the young man. Reluctantly, she sat, but her heart remained guarded. As the night deepened, Ikin stayed, laughing and sharing stories, making even Nkem smile once or twice. When he finally left, he turned to her and said, Let me take you out tomorrow. Just a walk through the village. She hesitated. Nkem, one walk won't kill you. She sighed. Fine. But only a walk. Ikin grinned. I'll be here by sunset. As he walked away, the village watched. And for the first time, Nkem wasn't sure if she could keep ignoring the billionaire who refused to give up. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden hues over Umwagu, Nkem stood outside her home waiting. She had spent the entire day convincing herself that this was just a walk. Nothing more. Yet, when Ikin arrived, dressed in a simple white tunic and sandals instead of his usual rich attire, her heart did something strange. Ready? He asked, flashing a smile. She nodded, keeping her expression neutral. The village watched as the billionaire and the village girl strolled together. Women whispered, young girls giggled, and the elders observed with knowing eyes. Nkem, however, refused to be distracted. So, she said as they walked past the yam fields. Tell me the truth, Ikin. Why are you really here? He chuckled. You don't believe I'm here for you. I believe you are used to getting whatever you want. And right now, I'm the challenge you haven't conquered. Ikin stopped walking and turned to face her. You think I see you as a game? Don't you? He sighed, running a hand over his neatly trimmed beard. Nkem, I could have any woman I wanted. Women chase me, not the other way around. But you make me feel something different. She folded her arms. And what is that? Like I need to be a better man. Like money isn't enough. Nkem's heart wavered for a moment, but she quickly steeled herself. That's easy to say when you've never struggled a day in your life, she said. Ikin smiled. That's where you're wrong. You think I was born into wealth? She frowned. Want you? He shook his head. My father was a poor mechanic. My mother sold akara by the roadside. I grew up in the kind of poverty you wouldn't wish on anyone. Nkem blinked, momentarily caught off guard. So how did you become this? She gestured at him. Hard work. Risk. And the belief that I could be more than my circumstances. For the first time, she saw something raw in his eyes, a vulnerability she hadn't expected. They walked in silence for a while, passing by the river where children played and women washed clothes. Then, Ekin turned to her. I don't expect you to fall for me overnight. But I want you to give me a chance. Nkem swallowed. I don't know if I can. Why? She hesitated, then finally said, because my heart is not something to be bought. Ekin took a step closer, his voice gentle. Good. Because I want to earn it, not buy it. Something flickered in her chest, fear. Hope. She wasn't sure. But as they walked back, side by side, she realized something had changed. For the first time, she was no longer certain if she wanted to push him away. The days that followed were a storm inside Nkem's heart. Ekin's presence in the village became impossible to ignore. He spoke with the elders, played ale with the children, and even joined the men in clearing a new farmland. He was no longer just the wealthy outsider, he was becoming a part of Umwagu. And Nkem hated how much it made her heart flutter. Still, she kept her distance, knowing that emotions were dangerous things. One evening, as she pounded yam in front of her hut, her best friend, Obi, sat beside her, arms folded. You like him, Obi said bluntly. Nkem almost dropped the pestle. I don't. Obi scoffed. Nkem, don't lie to me. You watch him when you think no one is looking. You smile when he speaks. And when he calls your name, your whole body listens. Nkem shook her head stubbornly. It's not that simple, Obi. He is a man of wealth and power. His world is different from ours. Obi smirked. And yet, he chooses to be here, with you. Nkem sighed. He thinks he wants me, but men like him, they tire easily. Obi leaned in, lowering her voice. What if this is real, Nkem? What if he stays? Nkem wanted to believe. She wanted to let herself dream. But doubt was a cruel thing. That night, as Nkem sat outside her hut, staring at the moon, she heard footsteps. Ekin. He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets. Are you avoiding me? She sighed. No. He chuckled. That was not convincing. Silence stretched between them. The air was thick with something unsaid. Finally, Ekin sat beside her, his voice quieter. You're scared, aren't you? Nkem looked at him, startled. Scared. That this is real, he said. That I might actually love you. Her chest tightened. Love? Ekin turned to her, his eyes dark and intense. Yes, Nkem. Love. Her breath caught. Then. Before she could stop herself, before she could overthink it, she closed the distance between them and kissed him. It was soft. Hesitant. Like a question waiting to be answered. Ekin answered. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, deepening the kiss until her heart forgot its fears. When they pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers. Tell me to stop, and I will. But Nkem did not. For the first time, she let herself fall. The village gathered as Ekin stood before the elders. I love Nkem, he declared. I will stay in Umwagu and prove myself. Chief Ifika studied him. You have 3 moons. Live as we do. If Nkem still chooses you, we will bless the union. Ekin worked the fields, fetched water, and wove baskets. His soft hands became rough with labor. The villagers mocked him at first, but soon, respect replaced laughter. Nkem watched in silence. Love was not in words, it was in effort. 3 moons passed. Nkem, her father said. The choice is yours. She stepped forward, heart steady. I choose him. The village cheered. And as Ikin held her close, she knew this was love beyond riches.